FM23 is on the horizon, and I've been lucky enough to be given access to an early alpha build of the game to have a little playthrough and a first look at. So without further ado, let's have a first look at Football Manager 2023. Hello folks, and welcome to my first look at Football Manager 2023. I'm Kevin. In this video, we are going to be having a look at some of the new features you can expect to see when you open up your copy of FM23 for the first time. Reminder, once again, this is an early alpha build of the game, so all of the stuff you're about to see could potentially change before the beta and before the full game are out, but there's plenty of juicy stuff here to get us going and stuck in to some of the new features of the game and how they work. If you are excited for FM23, I want to make sure you don't miss out on new content on the new game. As soon as it drops, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on. The moment that beta drops, there will be videos starting to appear on this channel, and you're not going to want to miss out on them. I have got big, exciting plans for FM23. So let's dive into the game. I have appointed myself as manager of the club I support in real life, Peterborough United. We are in, and we are immediately presented with one of the other new features. We've got the supporter profile, which gives you a breakdown of the types of supporter that your club have got. Only 2% corporate supporters at Peterborough United, 27% casuals. I mean, I'd like to think back in the day, I was definitely up here. A season ticket holder for 25 years. I've been to like 3 matches in the last 2 years. I think I've drifted down into this 27% casuals now, and I'm not proud of it, but I am getting old. You also get to see the season ticket holders, social media following, waiting list on the season ticket list as well. Obviously, there is none because we have very few season ticket holders. We are massive. And then you get the supporters' expectations as well as an indication of how important these supporters' expectations are when it comes to actually keeping you in your job, the supporters' influence on the board. So we have 3 out of 5 moderate influence on the board. And in addition to hitting the club culture stuff as part of the club vision, which is all in there and unchanged from previous games, the fans would prefer us to finish above our rivals Cambridge, get the better of Northampton if we play against them. They require us to win promotion to the Championship. How does that differ from what the club themselves want? So that's quite interesting, because the board require us to reach the playoffs, whereas the fans are insisting on promotion. So if it would be interesting to see what would happen if we got to the end of the season, got into the playoffs and lost, just how much fan power, I guess, with 3 out of 5, I'd probably still survive, but just adds an extra layer onto that whole keeping your job thing that hasn't been there in the past. Now, if you're anything like me, one of the first things you do when you arrive at a new club is try and work out what the situation is with your squad, who you want to get rid of, who you maybe want to sign, and of course, we have the new squad planner to help us with that this year. And there's so much stuff within this squad planner. You can go to a full squad view, which is very similar to the squad depth screen that we had before, and it gives you an immediate overview of who your best players are in each role. Then you can also go position by position and have a look to see what you've got and where. If you're not sure what order to put people in, you can ask your assistant and you can get them to sort it according to various criteria as well. And when you're going through, if you decide there's an area of weakness, so as a posh fan, I know that right back is a particular area of weakness in our squad because Joe Tomlinson really is a left back. So we've only really got one right back. So if you're going through this and you're thinking, oh yeah, we look a bit light on right back, straight from this screen, you can immediately set up a new recruitment focus for right back. And then you can go through there and allocate the kind of player that you want. So I want someone who's a minimum of 3 stars. I want them to be under 26 years old. I want them to be based in England, and whatever you want it to be. You can make that your top priority. And there you go. We've now got top priority. Go find me a right back who's better than the one that we've got. And what we also have on here is the ability to do this for the next couple of seasons as well. So we've got our current season list, and then we can have a look at next season, which if any contracts have expired, those players will start to drop off and they won't come back on here until they've had that new contract added. So if we go 2 years in the future, you can see that the 2 players who are the best players at the moment, Jack Marriott and Johnson Clark Harris, in 2 years' time, they'll both be out of contract as it stands. So it shows you what our squad depth would be if we didn't offer any new contracts. And what I find particularly helpful on this screen, if you focus in on Ricky J. Jones, who in the current season is our second best striker, according to my assistant manager, you could argue he's third, behind Johnson Clark-Harris, and you can swap them around if you want to. But either way, he's currently showing us 2.5 stars of current ability as a striker. Next season, though, he's up to 3 stars. So what that's telling us, if there's any debate this season about which one of those strikers is best, I mean, you could argue one way or the other. They're both 2.5 stars. But by next season, we would expect Jones to have made it to 3 stars, while Clark-Harris will still be 2.5 stars. So within a year, we're expecting Ricky J. Jones to surpass Johnson Clark-Harris as our starter. And then in 2 years' time, we're thinking he will be a 3.5 star current ability player in that position. So it's not just a case of planning when your contracts are going to expire. You kind of get a shape of how you would expect younger players to develop so that you can build around them and maybe not give Johnson Clark-Harris a 3-year contract extension when we know in 3 years' time he's not going to be the starter because Jones will be. Now, another big change is the recruitment meeting. These were brought into the game last year, I want to say, but they are now structured completely differently. You don't have one recruitment meeting. You have a number of meetings over the course of your transfer window. So we start things off with the squad plan. If you've not already discovered it yourself, this is where you're forced to go in there and have a look at it and basically identify those squad gaps. We already know we want a right back. If we didn't, this is where we'd find out and decide we wanted a right back. We then look at the contracts that are expiring. So we've got some key players whose contracts are expiring. Jack Taylor and Nathan Thompson, it's recommended that we offer new contracts to. Joe Ward, it's recommended that we wait. We then have any suggestions that we might have from the staff. There are no suggestions from our staff, but we do have a number of players who are attracting interest. Johnson Clark-Harris, for example, wanted by Huddersfield. The staff advice here is do nothing. He's a fringe player. Don't worry about it. If he goes, he goes. Whereas some other players, Ronnie Edwards, for example, we're being recommended to offer him a new contract to deter interest. For some other players, Harrison Burrows, the advice is increase his asking price. And we can either go through and do it all manually or literally just tick it and it'll be done automatically. Obviously, I wouldn't ever leave these things to be done automatically. I'm not a monster, but you'd literally go through all these different areas and have all these different little bits of advice to apply. And then from there, we have our recruitment focuses. So these are the ones that we've currently got active at the moment. We're scouting our own league and we're scouting right backs, the ones that I added on. And the staff are recommending that we add some other bits on as well. So they're actually recommending right back that we've already got. Let's add goalkeeper as well, because we are a little bit weak in terms of goalkeeper. These two are already on there, but let's add some young players on as well. We're going to be focusing on players in League One, right backs, goalkeepers, and players between 15 and 21 years old. You don't have to follow the recommendations. You can completely create your own and target whatever you might want to be targeting, but I'm happy with these, and I will end that meeting. There's your confirmation of everything that was discussed. What we haven't done there is mentioned any players, because that comes in a minute. But first, if you've made it this far into the video, I'm sure you're ready for a little bit of Match Engine. So let's get some Match Engine action up and running for you so you can just see the new game in action. As you can see, this was a 7-0 friendly victory over St. Neots. So plenty of goals for you to peruse. And while you are perusing the goals, just to let you know that I'm not the only creator who got access to the game early on the alpha to make these videos. So there are deep dives on lots of other areas of the game. So if there's any bits of this that you'd like to know more about, check down in the description of the video. And there's a very good chance one of my creator colleagues has probably created a video on the area that you want to see more about. So make sure that you click the playlist at the end of the video, check down into the description to see who's made what. Go and watch all the other videos as well. There's 10 of them in total. You should probably watch them all because look at that, it's a lovely goal. It's going to give you a very good feel for the new game. And I mean, we've had some lovely finishes here. There's Ronnie Edwards in with a nice little goal as well. I've lost count of how many we've seen. I think we've got one more here. Ricky J. Jones involved again. He's had a fantastic game in this match. And there's your finish from Jack Marriott. Match Engine, boys and girls. There's going to be goals. So once we've had our original recruitment meeting, you then start getting these recruitment focus updates that come through that, as the name suggests, give you an update of how you're getting on in your focus. So if we check in on right backs, because that's the top target that we set before, you can then have a look at what scouting results you've got available. So at the moment, there's no actual recommendations because this wasn't an area we were scouting already. There's no recommendations. For just general League One targets, there are some recommendations that are already being made because that was scouting that was already going on. But this is new scouting, so we haven't got any proper recommendations yet. But there are 3 players who are are nearly meeting the criteria that we want, but have failed for whatever reason. In fact, it says there what the reason is. They've not got the current ability. We asked for 3 on current ability, and these guys are not quite at 3 on current ability. Now, for Darnell Johnson at 23 years old, that might not be that much of a big deal because he's actually got 4 for his potential ability and would fit nicely in as that understudy to Thompson. So this is why it's worth checking out your near matches, because he might well fit the bill. But we also have 6 other right backs that we are currently in the process of scouting who might make it up to the recommendations or the near matches as time goes on. So these are the 6 players that we are actively having a look at. And as we get more knowledge on them, they might move along this list and eventually become a recommendation, which is what we really want. We want someone who absolutely fits our criteria. But if nobody does come deadline day and we need to make a move, I'm already at the back of my mind thinking, Darnell Johnson, he might be the one. And then eventually you get this message in your inbox to say recruitment focus is completed. And we have made it to the end of our recruitment focus, and we actually do have 2 recommendations. So you can see them on screen there, or you can go back into the scouting screen and have a little bit more look in more detail so you can see the near matches as well. But we have 2 players that we now have extensive knowledge on and are both being recommended as good options for us. We've got Wes Harding, who's at Rotherham, who's going to cost us a lot of money. According to that, it says he's not for sale. That suggests we could get him for somewhere in that kind of range, which might actually be more than we can afford. We've only got £1 million in our budget, so we might not be able to afford Wes Harding. But Jason McCarthy is also a recommendation. He's not quite as good. He gets a B rating rather than the A-, but he is well within our price range. And then, as before, we can ask his agent about his availability. We're keen on signing him. And this is something else that's a little bit different from how it's been in the game previously, because we can talk about the wage demands and actually get not an agreement, but get an idea of whether we can afford the player or not in place before we actually make an offer. So if we can't afford 8k a week, we can say we can't afford 8k a week and get an idea if they're going to come down or not. They've said they're probably not. To be honest, we probably want to buy him anyway. So we are just going to make the offer and try and bring this guy in. Let's make an offer of, let's say, 300,000 for him. There you go. So looks like we should be bringing in the player we wanted all along. And then after all that, you get your next recruitment meeting, the recruitment feedback meeting, where we go in here and we basically get a summary of everything that's gone on since that first meeting. So you can see that a few players have left the club online. No one's actually arrived yet. That guy we're trying to bring in isn't actually here yet, but we have added Joe Ward to the transfer list because his contract is going to be expiring. And then you can just flick through, see everything that we've got going on, see who's interested in Joe Ward, add or remove any recruitment focuses because things might have changed since the last meeting. And then this is confirmation of the current transfer activities. That's where we're trying to sign Jason McCarthy. You can then go in, and if you haven't been checking in on your inbox on these recommendations as they're coming through, this is where you get to see who our recommendations and each of our scouting focuses are. So if we're not happy just signing a right back, we can maybe pick some other players out of here. If we want to bring in some younger players, that's where we'd find the younger players. Or if we're looking to take the cream of the League One crop, we can do that from here as well. And also get an idea of who is still being looked at. So we might want to wait. It's like a month till deadline day still. I'm not in a hurry. I want to get this right back and then kind of regroup. We also have other recommended players, or potentially can get other recommended players. We haven't got any here, but these are players who, while your scouts have been scouting other people, come up on your scout reports. So you're not like, by putting a scouting focus in, you're not excluding all other players. Although in this instance, they haven't actually found anybody any different. And that basically sums up my first impressions of FM23. There is apparently some tweaks that have been made to defensive tactical stuff, but let's face it, for the way I play the game, don't think this is going to come up. So we don't need to focus in on that kind of stuff too much. The set piece creator looks a little bit different. They're a little bit bigger and they don't all jump back into the position they were in previously when you move them. So there's definitely something that's changed on here. That's got to be a positive. And I'm sure there's loads of other stuff as well that we'll discover as we get more time with the game. But as I mentioned previously, if you want to see more FM23 content right now, there's 9 other creators who have been making videos. Check the links out in the description below, or the playlist that should be appearing up on the screen now. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel with your notifications on for my FM23 content as soon as that gets up and running when the beta drops. And thank you very much for watching, folks.